Hello guys, so I made a video in response to a video by Raz talking to the void, because I respond to his video about what's going on right now in Israel with Netanyahu and sort of, and he made a video and I respond to that, and he sent me a very long response, which by the way I appreciate that. I'm happy that he responded to me. And this is why I want to respond to him. By the way, so I want to introduce his channel. He's a great guy. I really like him. He used to be left wing. I think that right now he's not that right. He's not that left wing. I think October 7 changed him a bit. And you know, he's a great guy. So I just want to introduce his channel and also to respond to him. Really, no, there's no hate, there's nothing bad. Really, he's a brother. So all is good. So this is Raz channel, and check it out. And if you like it, also subscribe. And I recommend you to subscribe. He's a very nice guy, but he's leaning to the Israeli left. And of course, because he's leaning to the Israeli left, he have to hate Netanyahu with vengeance, as they say, which is very unfortunate. So, but he have a lot of videos about anti-Semitism, and he's very pro-Israel. Of course, he's Israeli, so he's basically saying the same thing that I do. I just did a video about a DNA test in Israel. He did maybe about a year ago, something like this, like also a video about how DNA in Israel. How DNA tests in Israel show that all Jews are actually from the Middle East. So in this new video that he made about the situation right now in Israel, he's saying that there's a silent civil war, and he's really going hard on Netanyahu. He's going hard on the government, and he's saying all sorts of stuff, which some of it is true, of course, but some of it is just propaganda, just left-wing propaganda that Netanyahu is doing that because he wants to avoid going to trial or being convicted or some of this. So I will go over that in a minute. Hold on for a second. So let me explain what's going on right now in Israel. Right now in Israel, even though there is a war against Hamas and against the Hezbollah and against Iran, against Yemen, also against portions of Syria, also some of a war with Turkey even. There is a conflict, not a war. There is a conflict between the Israeli government to the judicial branch. Okay, there is a conflict with them. Okay, and it's been going for quite a long time. And it's just that right now they're actually the government is trying to bring back its original position as the representative, the sovereign of the people, because the power was taken from the government in a very long process. Now, in 2023, in February, a new government was assembled, and this government was created after an election, a fifth election, I think, or maybe a fourth. It was kind of hard to remember. And in this election, the Israeli left was destroyed. The Israeli left was destroyed. The Meretz party, which is extreme left, didn't get enough vote to enter the Knesset. Labor Party, that's the party that established the state, got like maybe four or five mandates. They didn't even do a party after the election as they usually do, because there was nothing to celebrate. So that sentiment was actually that the left was really got a slap from the voters. But and then on the same time, there were two things that happened on the same time. One thing is that the general attorney, in Hebrew it says the judicial advisor for the government, didn't allow the prime minister to appoint Aryeh Deri, ultra-Orthodox Mizrahi rabbi that had been the Minister of interior affairs for many years. Didn't allow him to become minister because of all sorts of other issues. He was convicted for corruption. He was released, of course. And on the same time, the right wing, headed by Simcha Rotman, which also is a lawyer, a religious Zionist. He wrote a book. Before that, he wrote a book called "The Supreme Party of the Bagatz." And in this book, is basically laying out and explaining how the judicial branches, and in the head of it, the Supreme Court for Justice, how it's actually hindering the government, preventing from government from manifesting what the people chose them to do, and actually represented a foreign interest and elite and industry power. Hold on for a second. So this is Yariv Levin. He is the Minister of Justice in Israel. He is a lawyer. He speaks fluent Arabic, and he's number 2 in the Likud, and he is the man behind the judicial reform in Israel. He's a guy that has there's nothing about him really, like he was never charged in corruption or anything like this, and he's the person that offered this. So really, they couldn't find anything on him, so this should just show you how straight as a ruler this guy is, So he's a really nice guy, and I think that his offer is actually really good, and it's a really good compromise between the government to the judicial branch. But he was criticized. His plan was criticized in so many ways, and I'm gonna explain to you very soon about it. So the Levine reform was introduced, but when it comes to legislation, they only started to pass one law, and that law was in regards to the committee that will choose the Supreme Court justice, the judges. And it took them quite a long time to do so. And by the way, they end up not doing so because of so much pressure from the elites, from the public. So as soon as it started, as soon as they start talking about it, they didn't even pass even one law. And the only law that they managed to pass, and later it was struck down by the Supreme Court, was the probability clause or something like this. It's something that doesn't exist, something that simply doesn't exist in other courts, as far as I know. Basically, the judge is striking down a law that the government passed because he doesn't like it. He doesn't like this law. It doesn't work. It doesn't come good in his eyes, as they say in Israel. He doesn't like it. Doesn't like it. It doesn't seem plausible to me. It doesn't make sense. So they want they actually passed a law that the judge cannot strike down a law just because he doesn't like it. And the Supreme Court of Justice struck down that law. So right as they start talking about it, the country went crazy. You had online people were talking about leaving the country. There were articles advising you how to move your money from your accounts in Israel to move them overseas, leaving the country, not serving in the army, not serving in the reserve service, not volunteering. There were demonstrations, and very soon it became very artistic demonstrations. Like in a few weeks, they had first of all, they had speakers, stages. They had music. They had drums. They made crazy noise, and they had dresses. Very soon, like in a few weeks, they were dressed like the women were dressed like in those red dresses, as if they were from that show about an apocalyptic world. that democracy is gone, and they were saying, "Oh, the democracy, it's just with the reform is just discussed. They didn't pass any law yet." And they went crazy, and you had TikTok over there, and they were cursing the religious and the ultra-Orthodox people, and they saying, "Oh, the government, they're gonna allow the ultra-Orthodox to they get money while not serving in the army and stuff like that," which is absurd. And really, they blocked the roads. And then you had like rich people that have big companies that they say that they're gonna do strikes. The airport even went on strike. I mean, there was even one day that the the national union worker went on strike because of that. You couldn't even go to the airport because of that. They used to block the airport. Demonstrations in the house of Netanyahu in Caesarea, demonstrations on the house of the prime minister in Jerusalem. A lot of people were, I mean, the Ayalon intersection. People simply went over there and sat, and and they're blocking the road, and they were fighting with the police. And the police, by the way, nobody died, nobody was shot or died during those demonstrations, which were very violent, by the way, but the police didn't shoot anyone. So if it's a dictatorship, how come nobody is dying? Like in Istanbul right now, people are dying. So it was, from the beginning, it seems to be well organized, well funded opposition to the government. And as I told you before, the left wing lost in the election, so it went to the fringe. It became even more crazy. And basically they took normal people and they brainwashed them that they're going to lose their democracy. Now this thing continued, and they went really hard and violently against the ultra-Orthodox. And it went to a climax right before October 7 in Yom Kippur, when there was a public prayer in Tel Aviv, in the street, because Tel Aviv is a very big city, and so sometimes there is, and Yom Kippur is a holiday that even secular are fasting, and they are observing, and they go to the synagogue. But so there's no place to be in the synagogue because it's packed. So there are street prayers, like common prayers. So the left wingers, they disrupted and they violated that prayer. During the prayer of those who were fasting, they came and they ate food and they drank right in front of them, and they cursed them and they pushed them, and they came with speakers, and stuff like that. So that was such a big violation, and I think even God was angry on that. And a week after that, October 7th happened. A week after that, okay. Now, ever since then, there was a war, of course. So for some time, both left and right kind of like forgot about this issue. It went kind of like in the freezer, as they say. But right now, when the war is kind of like on its way to be over, Hamas is on the floor. You still have the hostages, but it's on the floor. Gaza is fucked. Gaza is fucked, and it will be fucked for the next 1,000 years, I think. Okay, because Israel is not going to assist them to do anything. It's gonna stay like this forever. Even if they're gonna release the hostages, fuck them. So anyhow, but Hezbollah is also fucked. Iran is fucked. Syria is fucked. Everybody's fucked. So it's obvious that Israel won the war, and this is why right now it's time to go back to argue about the real thing, about the reform. Everything here is about the reform. So, and this is why Raz is making this video, and it seems like as if nothing happened. Nothing happened. I mean, who is the guy that led us all to the victory against Hezbollah? It's Netanyahu. The victory against Syria, Netanyahu as well. Against Iran, Netanyahu as well. Okay, all right. So I'm going to answer to what he says. So have a look at what I wrote to him, and I'll basically say that whole point of the judicial reform, and we are going back to the judicial reform of 2023, because this is the real issue, is that in the end, since the committee of that is in charge of choosing the judges will be not just the judges, it will also be the people that were chosen by the people, meaning the government. And so they will choose judges which are not elitist left wingers. They will choose also other, like. So his answer is that illegal immigrants are being deported right now when they are discovered. Asylum seekers or people who come to Israel to work legally with their families do not and shall be deported. Okay, I agree with you on that. But the Africans that came to Israel in the last 20 years from Sudan and from Eritrea and from Congo came here illegally. They came here as supposedly asylum seekers, and the country didn't want them in them, but the Supreme Court of Justice forced the country to let them in, forced them not to deport them, and even when the country tried to do something about it, it struck down the laws that the Israeli government passed. And therefore, the result was that those illegal immigrants became resident in this country, and they're causing damage, and they are killing people, and they're murdering people, and they are commit crimes, and they're just a menace, and they must go. All right. So this is a case that the Supreme Court of Justice is actually subvert the government and force it to do something it doesn't want to do. So here he's saying that I'm importing issues from the West which are not relevant to Israel, saying that unless I live in South Tel Aviv, he bet that I never met an illegal, non-Jewish, illegal or legal immigrant in Israel. Is betting that. That's what he's saying. I actually met quite a lot of illegal immigrants and legal immigrants in Israel, not only Sudanese and Eritreans and Arabs and Moldovians and Ukrainians and even Nigerians, of course Chinese, Vietnamese. I met them all. All right. By the way, behind my house in Hadera, when I used to live in Israel, there was a facility for detention of illegal immigrants, and it was full of, I don't know, Russians and Moldovians girls over there. On top of that, my wife is not Jewish, so if I were to come back to Israel, which I dream about doing that, she will also be how do they call it, like a legal worker or something like this, So I'm very familiar with that. My problem is with illegal immigrants that came to Israel and they stay here because the Supreme Court of Justice doesn't allow the government to deport them, and they're causing problems, they're committing crime. They should go. So in 2012, the Knesset and the government approved a new amendment for the law against infiltration to Israel, basically changing the status of what is an infiltrator, an illegal immigrant to Israel, because there was a law from the 50s that referred to Arabs trying to infiltrate to Israel in order to murder Jews. And there was a law about that. They changed it in order to apply for the illegal immigrants coming from Africa through Egypt, through the desert, to the Sinai, through the Sinai Desert to Israel. And because the law was not updated, the Israelis didn't know what to do. Also, considering that they are coming from Eritrea, that the UN says that it's a dangerous country and you cannot return people to there, and also from Sudan, which is an enemy state of Israel, it was at that time. So the Israel didn't have the judicial tools to deal with these problems, so they end up basically keeping those illegal immigrants for a while and then basically releasing them, and they simply came to the streets and they find a job. But when they didn't find a job, they stole, they robbed, they mugged, and they raped, and they killed, and they murdered. That's what they did. And this is so the law passed, and the law basically made it possible to deport them after giving them due diligence. They're gonna come, they're gonna be detained, and the appeal for asylum will be dealt with. And if it cannot be dealt with, then for some time, then they're gonna be allowed in Israel. Also, if they are really sick, then they're gonna be allowed to Israel anyhow. If they're very old or they're very young, also they're gonna be allowed to Israel anyhow. But all those men of military service age coming to Israel, they're obviously coming to look for work. So say goodbye to them. So the law passed in 2012. But check this out. After the law was passed by the Knesset, the illegal immigrants, together with some left-wing organization and also the UN envoy for refugees, they appealed to the Supreme Court of Justice against this law. And in about a year of discussion, the Supreme Court of Justice strike down this law as if it's illegal. So a year afterwards, the Knesset made another law, which is a softer version of the previous law that was struck down by the Supreme Court of Justice. And it's all about for how long you can keep the illegal immigrant in detention until you must release him back to Israel, and when you can deport him back to Africa. And even that law that passed, it was struck down by the Supreme Court of Justice. So the illegal immigrants problem in Israel is a very big problem. There are some places in South Tel Aviv that Jews basically can't live. This is just 10 years after this whole struggle. You know, the government tried to pass laws, and each law that they pass in order to deal with this problem, the Supreme Court of Justice struck it down. As if it's illegal, as if it's hurting their human right, about the human right of the Israelis, right? So this is just one example out of many in which the Supreme Court of Justice subvert and basically stumble down over the government chosen by people, basically walking over the people for the benefit of some sort of armchair philosopher, idealist. Okay, so Raz continued to saying that in regards to capital punishment for terrorists, he's saying that the judges are not related to that. It's the legislator that is supposed to make a decision about that. So I copy from Wikipedia in regards to capital punishment in Israel, and it says here in Hebrew, I will translate that to you, about cases in which terrorists who murder people, by law they were deserved to get capital punishment, but the judges simply would not go for that. There was at least one judge that refused to capital punishment, or there was a court that actually decided that this specific terrorists will get capital punishment, but there was an automatic appeal against that, and it was automatically accepted without even checking that. So it's not like that there is no law for capital punishment. It's just that the judges are not doing that. One of the reasons that the criminals, the terrorists that were caught in October 7 by the IDF and by the police were not brought to trial yet, it was a year, it's already a year and a half since then, is because the government want to bring all of them to death, to capital punishment, but it knows that the way that the relationship between the judicial system is right now, even if a judge will decide that, it will going to be appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will gladly accept the appeal and decline the judge. So let's go back to the rest of the stuff that he's writing to me, and basically saying also again about criminals will sit for a long time in jail. Well, that's what I'm saying is that because the judges are left-wingers, idealists, though they give like, I don't know, they give like funny punishment, like 1 year, 2 year for people that rape 4-year girls, and if the reform will pass, then those guys will sit forever in jail. He writes to me in Hebrew that my my teacher for I don't know, civil study. How do you call that? Didn't do a good job. She did a great job. Actually, I remember my teacher from high school. Her name was Aliza, and she taught me really well, bro. So now Raz is saying that Netanyahu might cancel the elections. Bullshit. Come on. It's not true. But the proposition, if it will cancel the election, you will support him? Of course, I won't support him, okay? I mean, I'm not even supporting him right now. I never voted for Netanyahu. I'm a right-winger, all right? So, but when it comes to choose between left-wing non-elected clerks like the judicial advisors to the government and like the Supreme Court for Justice judges and choose between them to Netanyahu, I choose Netanyahu. So to conclude a very long video that I made for you, Raz, I see a future in which in Israel the judicial reform will pass. And the judges that will be elected by the committee, which is joined by the judges and also by the politicians, will elect normal judges of all sections of Israeli society, and they will, in turn, when they come to make a judgment in trial, they will punish the criminals very badly, and they will send terrorists to capital punishment, as the law allowed them to do so, and they will deport illegal immigrants and asylum seekers as the law required them to do so. And also they will not try to hinder the government when it deals with foreign affairs and security. It will simply won't deal with that. So terrorists or terrorist family will not be able to appeal and win an appeal in the Supreme Court of Justice, and forcing the army to sacrifice the security of the civilians and its soldiers because of this ruling by the Supreme Court. So in this case, for example, this is the case where the government should have just said to the Supreme Court of Justice, hey, we're going to call the shot on this one. This is security issues. So you can take your appeal, you can take your ruling and shove it in your fucking ass. All right, and that would be just fine. Okay? Life, bro. Love you.